Hello and welcome. This video is here to help you learn how to judge Lincoln Douglas debate. This is specifically for Lincoln Douglas, so hopefully if you have questions about how to enter your ballots into the tab room, if that's what you're doing for a particular tournament, that would be another video. But we're going to be going over the event of Lincoln Douglas, so congratulations, you are judging Lincoln Douglas. First and foremost, thank you for judging. Without you judging, it would be impossible for our students to compete, so just know that you are making the students' lives and by proxy their lives much better, and by proxy the world a much better place because you chose to judge. So thank you so much for spending your time to do that. So Lincoln Douglas is a values-based debate. So the question in Lincoln Douglas at its core is, what should we value? What do we ought to value? And that's the debater's job, is to convince you what to value based off of the resolution. So I'm showing some Lincoln Douglas example resolutions. So the September-October 2020 topic is, in a democracy, voting ought to be compulsory. So it depends when you're seeing this video what topic it will be, but if you search under National Speech and Debate Association, NSDA, and type in topics, you'll be able to find it. Now let's look into specifically what happens in a Lincoln Douglas round. So I have pulled up here the format because that is probably what you have the most questions about. It's what am I watching? What is going to happen? So in Lincoln Douglas, each speaker gets a total of 13 minutes to speak, and I'll show you how that's broken down. And each speaker will get an opportunity to cross-examine the other speakers. So the first thing that happens in a round, and keep in mind, the students should know this structure, and as a result, they oftentimes will apologize for the kitten I'm watching in the back, just destroying everything. What are you doing? You should not be hanging from that. So we can see that the first speech in Lincoln Douglas is a 6-minute, what we call a constructive speech. So constructive means that it's they're laying out their case. They're constructing their case for you. So it's usually an opening speech or a second speech, depending on the event. So here it is a first speech. It is 6 minutes, and you can see it's just pre-written, right? It's going to be not off the cuff. They should already have everything planned for this speech. Following that, you have a 3-minute cross-examination. So the negation, the one who has not spoke yet, will be the one who cross-examines the affirmation. And the affirmation is the side that agrees with the topic, and the negation is the side that disagrees with the topic. Following that cross-examination, you have a 7-minute negation speech. So the negation, this is also sometimes called the 1NR, which means rebuttal, but it's really negative constructive. But the reason it's called a rebuttal is oftentimes in the speech, the negation will spend some time writing, talking about their opponent's case, and then following that they will also talk about their own case. So usually they'll start with their case and then go to their opponent's case, and that's why it's called a rebuttal, because they're refuting the other side, but you can just think about it as a constructive. Next is you have another cross-examination, and then the affirmation will be asking questions in the negation. So far, you have an aff speech, neg asks questions, then you have a neg speech, and then aff asks questions. And then following that, you get into this second cross-ex is the last one. Cross-ex is an opportunity for speakers to ask each other questions, sort of like you'd see cross-examination in like a court, right, where they try to, get their opponent lying or point out flaws in their ideas or things like that. Next is you have the first affirmative rebuttal. So one thing you'll note is the affirmation has 3 speeches in this event, and the negation only has 2. But the thing that is important to note is they have the same exact amount of speaking time. The reason for this is in debate, since the affirmation speaks first, that means the negation gets the first opportunity to speak against the affirmation, and so that's kind of an advantage for the negation. And so as a result, in debate world, we make it so the affirmation has the last speech, so they sort of have an advantage in having the last word, so it sort of balances it out. This speech is 4 minutes long. You can see that in this speech, a lot has to be done. The affirmation needs to respond to this speech while also bringing up their points again in this speech, their very first speech. Following that, the neg has a 6-minute speech, and this speech will refute everything that the previous speaker said in their speech, and also might tell you, the judge, why that they should vote for you, though we often call that voter issues. And then the affirmative, they will have their third and final speech, the second affirmative rebuttal. It'll be 3 minutes long, and the abbreviation doesn't matter necessarily, it's 2AR. And in this speech, they'll summarize the main points in this round and things to go over. So as a judge, it's helpful to know this format, but the students will be really the ones in charge of it. So you don't have to pay too much attention in terms of like, you should still time, but you don't have to worry too much. The last thing to note is in Lincoln Douglas, they get 4 minutes of preparation time. Essentially, what that means is they have 4 minutes that they can use throughout this round if they want to take time to prepare their speech. They cannot use it right before a cross-examination, but any other time in the round is fair game. Now, if you're judging a round, you might want to take notes. This is something you can find online, or you can just create it on your paper. It doesn't really necessarily matter, just as long as you have a note-taking strategy. So this is what we call a flow sheet. And pretty much you have the AF case, and then you can have like the neg case, and pretty much you would write the arguments across. So first argument here for the AF, this is what the neg says, and then they go. And so you try to keep the notes as organized as possible. This is helpful. We encourage this because you can see what they're saying. And also there may be times where the debater may reference like, judge, as you might remember, they didn't respond to my first point. And it's good to note if you have these notes, because you can look down and be like, yeah, you're right, they didn't respond. Or you could look down and be like, wait a minute, they did respond. That's not true. So it just gives you more value and more information. But don't stress too much about this part, especially as a newer judge. You want to really focus on just who convinces you of their value and in relationship to the topic, who is able to persuade you. So thank you so much again for judging, and this is how Lincoln Douglas works. So I hope